Hi everyone, my name is Saurabh Sharma. I'm an international badminton player, as you know by the introduction. And I've represented India several times at the World Championships and other prestigious tournaments. Competing against the best top 32 in the world is a great feeling. And I'm also a co-founder of a new age startup called Sparring Player. And I'll tell you more about it in the later part. To start off, I would like to ask you a question जो कि सबके उसमें होता है कि स्पोर्ट्स वायबल करियर है या नहीं है, कब स्टार्ट करना चाहिए. मेरी बेटी 6 साल की है, सौरभ उसको अभी डालूं कि 12 साल की हो जाएगी जब डालूं. We have all these questions in our head and I get them a lot by parents. What do you guys think? It's sports a viable career, and what's the ideal age? Should we start early or should we start later on in life by playing other sports and then specializing into just one? What do you guys think? Any answers? Come on, students. Early specialization is the key to success. Okay. Any other guesses? Like just और किसी को नहीं पता? Anytime in that. So if you're 22, you can start sports and become a champion. Perfect. I like that spirit. Nice. No, that's actually. So I'll give you that two examples of two legends. So एक बंदा है 2 साल का and उसके पापा ने उसको golf की club थमा दी है and उस टाइम यूट्यूब नहीं होता था. दिस इज लाइक 15-20 years back and he's drawing pictures for him to how to hold the golf and he's narrating him all these stories कि ऐसे करना है वैसे करना है, like a very early specialization वाला case is what I'm talking about. And then when he's 6-year-old, he's competing against 13-year-old kids in golf. And then when he's 9-10, he's outstandingly good. He's competing against 18-19 years old kid क्योंकि he started very early in his life. जब वो 6 महीने का था, golf is what he had. Golf is what were the stories that were played out to him. That is what content he consumed. And that was a very dedicated approach by their parents. The second case, and I'll get back to this story, what happened to these players later on in their lives. Second player is someone who played all sports: basketball, badminton, tennis, skiing, football, all these sports. He played everything in his life, tried everything till he was 13 or 14. And then eventually he had to specialize in something. He understood कि मुझे शायद tennis ज़्यादा पसंद है. So he took tennis. Any guesses? Like, किसी को पता है कि मैं किन के बारे में बात कर रहा हूँ? Any wild guesses? No? Okay, tennis is Roger Federer. Okay. For the golf one? My audience is smart. Good one. So yes, both of them went on to become legends in their own respective field, but it did not matter when they started. And I also learned it through my journey that it actually does not matter when you start, but it's something else, and we'll get to know more about that through my story, through my personal experience that I've experienced over the years. So I come from a traditional sports-loving background in Haryana, and मैं गांव से belong करता हूँ. Like my early first 6-7 साल मैं गांव में रहा, and my father was a kabaddi player. And Haryana में it has a very strong culture that everyone almost plays some kind of sport. Boxing, kushti, kabaddi, ये सब खेलते सब लोग. And almost everyone tried their hands on sports. कुछ ना कुछ तो चलता ही था, culture था. मतलब मैं देखता था तो कोई ना कोई sports खेलता ही है. But my father was brave enough to take a chance on me. Back then no one thought कि sports को परस्यू किया जा सकता है एज अ करियर ऑप्शन. गांव में थे कि ठीक है चलो खेल रहा है, खेलने तो देखते हैं. बट देन आई वॉज दिस notorious kid. They would send me to school. I would come back lunch में and I would trouble everyone. Hyperactive, always asking a lot of questions, stupid questions most of the times. And that's when my mother decided कि लाइक गांव में इसका कुछ होने वाला नहीं है. एंड that's when they decided कि we'll move to a better city. And then I moved to Sonipat. I belong from Sonipat. And that's where I got enrolled to a good convent school, English medium school, good infrastructure, better people around me. And but again, you know, as my mom puts it, she couldn't tolerate me, क्योंकि वो कुछ काम कर रही होती थी, मैं बोलता था मम्मी आके मेरे साथ खेलो ना, क्रिकेट खेलते हैं, ये खेलते हैं, वो खेलते हैं. एंड आई ऑलवेज यूज्ड टू ट्रबल हर. एंड शी वाज लाइक, शी टोल्ड माई फादर, इसको कोई स्पोर्ट्स में डाल दो आप, नहीं तो मेरे से नहीं झेला जा रहा है इस ये. एंड दैट्स व्हेन दे एनरोल्ड मी इनटू बैडमिंटन, बिकॉज उस टाइम मैं गली में बैडमिंटन खेलता था थोड़ा बहुत. आई हैड दिस, माई फादर हैड दिस हैबिट ऑफ waking up early in the morning at 4 o'clock, and he used to do his cycling then in 4 in the morning. And since I was enrolled into sports, he said thoda fitness वगैरह चाहिए ज़्यादा. And then that's when I started also waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And this is a 6-7-year-old kid getting up at 4 in the morning, doing extra training in the morning. मैं उनके साथ जाता था, and it sort of became a tradition for me to go. You know, and I actually enjoyed it. मेरे पापा साइकिल चला रहे थे और मैं साइड में भाग रहा होता था. 4-5 किलोमीटर कैसे हो गए पता ही नहीं चलता था. And I think that's what had actually did the magic for my early success in winning district championship. You know, within 6 months I won the district championship because I had a competitive, you know, a physical edge over everyone else. क्योंकि मैं सुबह जल्दी उठ जाता था, ट्रेनिंग करता था. And within 2 years I also won the state championship. Pata nahi, like I think starting in the early primitive years, your physical ability and your stamina and all that has lot to do, because skill utna mature nahi hua hota. It is only in the later parts. And then one fine day my father was reading a newspaper, and Mr. Pulela Gopichand ji, the 2001 All England champion, was planning to open a badminton academy in Hyderabad. And that's when the thought sprouted in their head कि यार ये अच्छा कर रहा है. I think we can now pursue him into, you know, professional sports. And since I was the state champion, and I luckily got enrolled into it, and I feel that was my golden ticket into my sporting journey. And a typical day at the academy would start at 4:30 in the morning. You know, I'm actually used to it, but we would train an average of 6 to 8 hours daily, and it was just badminton. Our phones were also taken away from us sometimes so that we could focus better on rest and recovery. And, you know, there were hardly any sugar in our diets, but there was never any lack of motivation, as within the 4 walls of the academy, we trained alongside champions like Saina Nehwal and PV Sindhu. So, you know, kabhi bhi kuch doubt hota tha, we used to consult our bhaiya didis and everyone, we used to call them. And it was a very fun loving environment, and you could really see your idols back then and get motivated to train more. Back then I did not realize, when I was in the process, that I was putting in so much hard work, you know, so much discipline and sacrifice has gone into pursuing my passion. It is only in hindsight that I realized what actually I had to do for my passion. Originates from the Latin word pati, which means to suffer. And I think I was willing to suffer more than anyone else in my childhood, and that's what had led me to my first ever under 13 national championship gold medal. A feat truly remarkable for a 12-year-old kid who didn't really understand what had been achieved. You know, I felt like a conqueror who had conquered the whole India. That was the feeling inside me. And things went on. I was under 15 India #1, under 17 national champion, under 19 national champion. But eventually, things are always not so rosy in an athlete's career, as I had to also go. मतलब हमेशा ऐसा नहीं होता है कि आप जीतते ही रहोगे. You know, at the age of 18-19, you have to manage your board exams. Parents are contemplating about your decision. I remember I was also struggling. और जो मेरी रैंकिंग पहले थी #1, #2, वो ड्रॉप हो रही थी. My parents started contemplating क्या करना है. It was a very tough time in my life. मैं मतलब अपनी लाइफ से बहुत स्ट्रगल कर रहा था. अपनी लाइफ से क्या, अपने अंदर, अपने एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर्स, स्टडीज़. आई रिमेंबर आई यूज़ टू ट्रैवल टू दिल्ली to give my board exams. मेरा स्कूल दिल्ली में था. I had enrolled in Hyderabad just for my badminton training. So it was actually a very tough time for me. I was not getting the performances that I desired. And I actually felt dejected. I was like, छोड़ देते हैं, कुछ सेंस बन नहीं रहा है. ठीक है, पहले अच्छा खेले, अच्छी बात है. अभी कोई बढ़िया कॉलेज में एडमिशन मिल जाएगा, SRCC, जो भी, थ्रू स्पोर्ट्स कोटा. So that is the choice that everyone makes eventually if they can't make it big into their careers. And I remember losing a tournament very badly. And I went to my coach crying, feeling dejected. And I told him, sir, I had lost the tournament and how I have also lost faith in my abilities. And मेरे को नहीं खेलना है sir, और हो गया बस. And he told me something that has stayed till now with me and has become a very important lesson for me, not just for badminton but for life. He said, Saurabh, एक athlete अपनी life में हारता ज़्यादा है और जीतता कम है. And it is these losses that you need to take in good spirits, because you will face them more often than your wins. It is always that one victory that will define your career in the end. People are not going to remember तू कितने matches हारा है जब तू 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 साल का है. But they will only remember what was your last performance, your last Commonwealth bronze medalist maybe, or your World Championship participation against the top contenders. So that is what you're going to be remembered for. Always focus on the larger goal and never let it hinder your process. And that's where I thought, yes, it makes sense. अगर मैं यहाँ पर logical हुआ, बहुत ज़्यादा practical हुआ about life, कि मुझे शायद sports will not give me the career that I want, then I might not even pursue it. And then I took the step of pursuing it even more. And then I went on to play good high-level badminton for another 5-6 years. I was competing against the top 32 in the world, amongst the best 32 in the world. And I remember at the World Championships, I was having breakfast in the morning, and Lindan, if you know Lindan, he's the 2008 Olympic gold medalist, 2012 Olympic gold medalist, multiple times gold medalist in badminton. So he came next to me and he was sitting next to me. And in that brief moment, the kid in me, the 10-year-old in me, actually felt some kind of relief. And I thought to myself, maybe after all these sacrifices, I made it somewhere, Competing against the top 32 in the world was such a feat, And I felt like success had been achieved. And it was only because I took a leap of faith, and it was only because I did not get too practical in life. So sometimes it's those decisions that look very risky, moments that are very uncertain. But the trick is to stay in those moments long enough, and eventually that turns into success, is what I realized. I was actually a very curious kid growing up. I would ask, like I said, I would ask a lot of stupid questions all my life. And I read a lot of books, watch a lot of movies. I've done IMDb top 250 movies, greatest movies of the all time. And I'm always this hyperactive, curious kid, wants to know everything, what's happening in tech. And luckily, I was able to maintain a good balance between my education and sports. And sports, not state level, district level sport. This is high performance sports that I'm talking, and it takes a lot of effort. It is not easy. So as athletes, we know what the system is lacking. What are the loopholes that needs improvement. But normally what happens is, all athletes are not educated. They sacrifice on their education, and that is how they pursue one thing in their life. But since I had a good balance between education and sports, I understood these problems well, and I was able to execute them on the web. And that is what led me to co-founding a pioneer startup, a new age revolution, a very innovative startup called Sparring Player. So briefly, to explain you the concept, I had moved to Hyderabad because, back there was hardly any competition left for me in my state. And all the champions were training in Hyderabad. And I said to myself, Sonipat or Haryana mein, theek hai, I've made my mark, but now what? We need to move to a better place. And that's where I had to sacrifice my education, my family, my friends, ghar ka khana, and all these things. And I remember, not everyone will do it, but what is the best possible solution that we can give to them? And that is where I thought, since in the academy, I never had lack of motivation because there were champions, idols in front of me. I could play with them, ask them advices. But not everyone can do that, right? So I thought of creating an online platform where the aspiring junior athletes can actually play a match with someone whom they aspire, whom they see on YouTube. And a bridge, and an online platform which will bridge both of them together. It was something very revolutionary and never heard of, like how you can book a court, you can book a player that you aspire to play with. But normally in a tournament, you lose early on, and then you just see ki finals mein kaun khel raha hai, but through this platform, you can actually play with them. So that is what the whole Sparring Player concept does. And we've held more than 250 athletes globally. And we've also assisted the 2016 Olympic gold medalist, Carolina Marin, in her training. And we've made tie-ups with the leading European global badminton associations. And it is something that I'm really proud of because as an athlete, I understood these loopholes and I always wanted to give back to the sport that has given me so much. And through Sparring Player, I'm actually able to do that. But it was only possible because I kept education on my side. If I would have sacrificed on my education, I don't think it would have been possible. Because as I mentioned, as athletes, we understand what the problems are in the sporting ecosystem, but we are hardly ever able to execute them on the web. So that is where education comes in. In the end, I would just like to conclude by saying that, have goals, have passion, chase them with all your intensities, but never at the sake of education. Always have that larger goal in the picture. Always have that larger goal in the picture. Chase excellence. Never try to compete with your friends because that, my friends, is a very wrong strategy, which I believe to be true at the primitive years of my age. In the end, there's this statement that is very close to my heart, and I would like to tell you all. I'm not able to find it where I wrote it. One second. Your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the voice of other people's opinion drown out your inner voice. Steve Jobs. This is a big picture of Steve Jobs in my room, and I wake up to it. I see it every day in the morning, get inspired, go for my training, and that's the inspiration I get. It's a truly something that inspires me. This statement is something that I get up early in the morning, I see it every day, and it inspires me every day. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.